When we speak of manifestation, most people imagine a waiting game. They believe in a kind of cosmic delay, a time lag between intention and outcome, as though the universe must process the order before delivering the result. But what if I told you that this belief itself is the greatest illusion? What if the true law of reality is that manifestation is always instantaneous, not sometimes, not occasionally, but always? The quantum truth is this: the moment a state of consciousness is assumed with authentic conviction, the entire architecture of reality reshapes itself in that exact instant. It is not tomorrow. It is not next week. It is not dependent on a cosmic clock. It is not. The problem arises because human perception is addicted to linear time. You and I have been conditioned to experience existence as a sequence of past, present, and future. We navigate life with clocks, calendars, and cause and effect reasoning. From this limited lens, when we intend something, we expect it to take time to arrive. But manifestation does not operate according to clock time. It operates within quantum time, which is nothing more than the eternal present. In quantum time, cause and effect are simultaneous. The seed and the fruit are one. The desire and its fulfillment coexist as two faces of the same coin. The only difference is whether your awareness is tuned to the frequency of the seed or the frequency of the fruit. Let's imagine a radio. The broadcast is always there, filling the room invisibly. But you only hear it when you tune to the right frequency. Manifestation works in exactly the same way. The moment you choose the frequency of abundance, love, health, or success, that reality already exists fully formed. You are not creating it. You are aligning with it. The instant you shift consciousness, the manifestation is complete. In the invisible realm, the delay you think you see is nothing more than the gradual adjustment of your physical senses to the vibration you already assumed. Here is the paradox. Manifestation is always instant, but the recognition of its instantaneity depends on how free you are from psychological time. If you insist that it hasn't happened yet, you are locking yourself into the illusion of waiting. But the moment you release that obsession with time, the truth becomes evident. It was complete the second you felt it. Modern science tells us that what appears solid is not solid at all. Atoms are mostly empty space. Particles flicker in and out of existence. Observation collapses probabilities into specific outcomes. This is not mystical poetry. It is quantum mechanics. But here's the radical leap. Your consciousness is the observer that collapses reality. Manifestation is nothing more than the conscious act of selecting a probability and inhabiting it as though it were already true. The moment you feel it real, the quantum wave collapses instantly into form. This is why the ancient mystics taught that imagination is not fantasy, but the creative power itself. When you imagine a new state with genuine feeling, you are not daydreaming. You are tuning the instrument of your consciousness to a new frequency, and once tuned, the external world cannot help but reorganize itself around that signal. The restructuring is instant, because consciousness is the root of matter. The body you walk in, the house you live in, the people you meet. All of these are not independent objects but reflections of your inner state. When the state changes, the reflection changes without delay. The delay exists only in perception, not in the mechanics of creation. Why then do people feel like they are waiting for their desires? Because they confuse the journey of perception with the fact of creation. Think of it like this. You send an email. The instant you hit send, it has already arrived in the recipient's inbox. The transmission is complete, but maybe the recipient doesn't check their inbox for 3 days. Does that mean your email took 3 days to arrive? Of course not. It was instant. The delay was only in recognition. Manifestation is exactly the same. The moment you align with the state of being you choose, it is delivered. But if your senses are still locked into the old state, you might not notice the delivery yet. The bridge of incidence is simply the unfolding of perception that leads you to realize what was already true. This is why Neville Goddard said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." He wasn't suggesting a ritual for the future. He was describing an immediate reality shift. When you assume it, it is already fact in the causal dimension. Consider this universe as a mirror. Mirrors do not delay. When you smile, the reflection smiles instantly. When you frown, the reflection frowns instantly. Reality's that mirror. So why does it sometimes feel delayed? Because unlike a bathroom mirror, the quantum mirror has infinite depth. It reflects not only your surface emotions, but your deep assumptions, your subconscious programming, your repeated states. If you smile once but spend the rest of the day frowning, the mirror reflects the dominant pattern, not the fleeting gesture. In other words, manifestation is always instant. But what manifests instantly is your true state, not your temporary wish. If you want abundance but live in a chronic state of lack, the mirror instantly reflects lack. If you declare love but harbor suspicion, the mirror instantly reflects suspicion. The law never fails. It simply mirrors what you are, not what you beg for. This realization is liberating. You don't need to wait 30 days, 90 days, or 10,000 affirmations. You only need to shift the dominant state now. The instant you occupy that state with sincerity, the quantum mirror reflects it. Linear logic says, first, I will set an intention. Second, I will work toward it. Third, if I'm worthy, maybe it will happen. Quantum law says, first, the intention and its fulfillment arise simultaneously. Second, my awareness chooses the version I inhabit. Third, everything else is just the mind catching up. When people struggle with manifestation, it is not because the universe is slow. It is because they are trying to apply linear logic to a nonlinear phenomenon. You cannot measure infinity with a ruler, and you cannot measure instantaneous creation with a calendar. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you decide with full conviction, I am a successful creator. In that very instant, the quantum field rearranges. Paths you could not see before open effortlessly. An old contact remembers you and reaches out. A random article sparks an idea. A door that seemed locked suddenly clicks open. From the perspective of your linear mind, these events look like coincidences. From the perspective of quantum law, they are the natural unfolding of the state you assumed. They are the inevitable bridge of perception that carries you to the realization of what already existed. The reason manifestation feels like magic is not because it is mysterious. It is because the conscious mind cannot comprehend the complexity of infinite intelligence weaving together billions of variables to match your new state. You think it is magic because you cannot calculate infinity, but the infinite has no difficulty delivering. So if manifestation is always instant, why doesn't everyone live in paradise? Why don't we all instantly see health, wealth, and happiness? The answer is simple. Most people are unaware of the states they are actually occupying. They think they want abundance, but they live in the vibration of lack. They think they are asking for love, but they are dwelling in loneliness. They think they are affirming success, but deep down they expect failure. The universe does not respond to words. It responds to states. And states are assumed in feeling, not in surface language. This is why genuine conviction, not empty repetition, is the creative act. The moment you feel it real, reality is instantly reshaped. And here lies the true power. Once you grasp this, you realize you are never waiting again. You realize every moment is creation. You realize manifestation is not something you practice, it is something you cannot stop doing. Every breath is instant manifestation of the state you occupy. To understand why manifestation is perpetually immediate, one must abandon the illusion of cause and effect as the mind perceives it. The rational intellect insists that action must precede outcome, that a linear chain of events constructs reality step by step. Yet when observed from the higher dimensions of awareness, cause and effect collapse into a singular event. They are not separate. They are one unified pulse of consciousness. Imagine throwing a stone into a still pond. To the eyes, ripples appear to travel outward gradually. But in truth, the entire surface of the pond received the disturbance in the very first instant. The spread is only perception catching up with what has already occurred simultaneously across the field. So it is with manifestation. The shift happens at once across the entire quantum field, though your limited senses experience it as a ripple expanding through time. Human beings are not bound to the three-dimensional identity the body portrays. You exist as a multi-layered continuum of awareness, stretching across infinite dimensions. At the level of your higher self, call it spirit, source, or pure consciousness, all realities already coexist. Every possible outcome, every potential version of you, is available simultaneously in the holographic field. When you set an intention, you are not fabricating something from nothing. You are choosing which layer of that infinite self you are going to experience now. In the moment of genuine choice, the selection is complete. The version of you who already embodies that intention becomes the operative reality. The so-called waiting period is simply the personality catching up to what the higher self already occupies. This is why people often describe powerful manifestations as déjà vu. They feel as though they've been here before, because in truth, they have. Their multi-dimensional self already lived it, and their current perception is only aligning with what was eternally available. Manifestation operates not like a gradual buildup, but like the flip of a switch. A room is dark. You flick the switch. Instantly the light fills the space. You do not ask the light to crawl across the ceiling 1 millimeter at a time. It is either present or absent. States of consciousness behave in the same way. You are either in the vibration of your chosen reality, or you are not. The universe does not deliver partial fulfillment. It mirrors the state you inhabit completely. The moment you occupy the vibration of love, the entire universe around you reshapes itself into a stage where love plays out. The moment you inhabit wealth, the stage reorganizes around prosperity. This is why, even small internal adjustments can produce dramatic external changes. The field does not require effort or delay. It only requires clarity of state. The tragedy of conventional manifestation methods is that they often reinforce the very separation they are meant to dissolve. Endless affirmations, obsessive visualizations, compulsive rituals. All of these imply that the desired state is not already present. The harder one tries, the louder the subconscious message becomes. I do not yet have it. But the universe echoes states, not words. Thus, striving amplifies lack. Effort prolongs absence. Struggle magnifies distance. The paradox is that when you stop trying, when you let go into the certainty that it is already real, the manifestation floods into awareness instantly. It is like trying to fall asleep. The more you force it, the more awake you become. But the moment you surrender, sleep arrives effortlessly. Manifestation follows the same principle. Detachment is the key that unlocks immediacy. Every moment of existence is holographic, meaning the whole is encoded in every part. Just as every fragment of a hologram contains the entire image, every moment of consciousness contains the entire universe. When you assume a new state, you are not pushing against reality to create something new. You are rotating the hologram, shifting perspective, aligning perception with a different encoded possibility. This pivot happens instantly, because the field is timeless. There is no travel, no delay, only selection. Think of a kaleidoscope. Turn it slightly, and a completely new pattern emerges instantly. The fragments of glass have not changed, only their arrangement. In the same way, manifestation does not build a new universe. It rearranges what was always present into a new reflection. Consciousness communicates with reality through resonance. Every state emits a unique vibrational signature, like a frequency on a dial. When you radiate fear, you resonate with experiences that match fear. When you radiate joy, you harmonize with experiences that match joy. The astonishing truth is that resonance does not require duration. It requires only intensity of presence. A single moment of pure embodied resonance carries more creative power than years of mechanical repetition. If you can enter even for a second the feeling of already being what you desire, that second reprograms the field instantly. This explains why breakthroughs often occur in sudden flashes rather than gradual progression. A person struggling for years suddenly surrenders, feels the reality of freedom deeply for an instant, and the entire life transforms around that flash of alignment. The field requires only one pure signal to recalibrate everything. From the linear mind's perspective, this principle appears absurd. How can a lifetime of circumstances shift in an instant? But this skepticism arises only because the conscious mind sees itself as the manager of creation. In truth, the mind is merely a filter. The real architect is infinite intelligence, which requires no time to reorganize the play of appearances. Consider the dream state. You fall asleep, and within seconds you are in an entirely new environment. Perhaps flying, perhaps walking through a city that never existed, perhaps meeting people you have never known. The dream emerges instantly. You do not ask how long it took to build the streets, to design the buildings, to recruit the characters. It is simply there, complete. This dream mechanism is a small window into the larger truth. Waking reality is also a dream, projected by consciousness. And just as dreams can shift instantly, so too can waking reality. The greatest obstacle to recognizing instantaneous manifestation is fixation on the future. The mind says, "When will it come? How long must I wait?" But every time you ask when, you affirm separation. You push the fulfillment away into an imagined tomorrow. The only way to access instant creation is to anchor into the present. The eternal now is the birthplace of all reality. Past and future exist only as thought forms. The moment you become fully present, you stand in the field where everything is already complete. From that vantage point, manifestation is no longer something that happens. It is something that always is. The moment a new state is assumed, reality begins its orchestration without your conscious management. A stranger feels a nudge to call you. A job post appears at the perfect moment. A delay prevents you from boarding one train so that you catch another that leads to the precise encounter you needed. From the outside, these events look random. But on the causal plane, they are flawless movements of the cosmic orchestra. And this orchestra begins playing the instant you set the tone. Not after a week, not after a ritual, not after convincing the universe. Immediately. The irony is that when you try to control the music, you introduce disharmony. But when you allow the orchestra to play, guided by the invisible conductor, the symphony of your manifestation unfolds with elegance and inevitability. The practice, then, is not about waiting or forcing. It is about knowing. To know is to collapse probability into certainty. To know is to embody the reality so deeply that the mirror of the world cannot help but reflect it. Knowledge is not intellectual. It is visceral. You can memorize thousands of affirmations, but until you feel them as lived truth, they remain empty. The instant you drop into genuine knowing, manifestation is complete. This is why mystics describe faith, not as blind belief, but as direct recognition. Faith is the inner knowing that precedes outer confirmation. And once you know, confirmation arrives instantly. Because the outer world has no choice but to echo the inner state. Everything that exists is vibration. And vibration is simply movement of energy. When you shift your focus, you redirect energetic current. The redirection is instantaneous because energy does not ask permission. It obeys the directive of attention. Attention is currency. Where you spend it, energy gathers. Think of a prism refracting light. White light enters, and instantly it scatters into a rainbow. It does not take time for the prism to generate colors. They were inherent in the light all along, awaiting an angle to reveal them. Your intention is that angle. The moment you hold a clear angle, the spectrum of reality reorganizes immediately. This is why presence is powerful. When attention is fractured, energy scatters. When attention is unified, energy concentrates. And when energy concentrates, the manifestation appears instantly because the field cannot resist a coherent directive. The psyche is not only personal, it is archetypal. Beneath the surface of individuality flows a collective sea of symbols, patterns, and mythic structures. When you desire something, you are not creating a brand new pattern. You are tuning into an archetypal current already alive within the collective field. For example, the archetype of abundance is as old as existence itself. The overflowing cornucopia, the goddess of harvest, the golden river, all of these symbols represent one energetic stream. The moment you align with that archetype, you step into an eternal current that has always been flowing. There is no delay, because the current does not begin when you call it. It was already roaring beneath the surface. Your awareness simply plugs in, and the energy floods upward. This is why powerful manifestations often feel larger than life, as though something greater than yourself is moving. Because it is. Archetypes carry the weight of collective resonance, and once accessed, they propel manifestation with exponential force. What slows manifestation is never the universe. It is internal resistance. Resistance is the interference pattern of contradictory vibrations. It is like playing two musical notes that clash. The sound wobbles, weakens, loses clarity. The field does not judge or deny. It simply mirrors the dominant frequency. If half of you vibrates yes, and half of you vibrates no, the mirror reflects static. But when resistance collapses, when all currents unify in one clear direction, the mirror flashes the result instantly. Collapse does not require effort. It requires recognition. To see the resistance fully is often enough to dissolve it. The moment you stop fighting the resistance, it ceases to exist. This is why surrender is so potent. Surrender is not giving up. It is allowing coherence, and coherence is what makes manifestation immediate. Energy precedes words, the body, the environment, the cosmos itself, all communicate in vibration before speech arises. When you intend from a state of pure energy, the universe understands without translation. Think of music. A single chord conveys emotion without needing explanation. It pierces directly into experience. Manifestation functions the same way. When you emit a pure energetic chord of desire fulfilled, the field responds instantly because energy is the universal language. This bypasses the slowness of mental narration. Words are linear, sequential, bound to grammar. Energy is immediate, simultaneous, holistic. That is why you can manifest faster through feeling and imagery than through endless verbal affirmations. Energy behaves according to resonance. When two objects vibrate at compatible frequencies, they synchronize. A tuning fork struck in one corner of a room will cause another fork of identical frequency to vibrate across the room without being touched. This is how instant manifestation works. You do not pull outcomes to you. You become vibrationally identical to them, and resonance ensures synchronization immediately. If it appears delayed, it is only because you have not yet stabilized in that vibration. The outcome is already vibrating. The question is, are you steady enough to hold the match? The field cannot withhold, it only reflects resonance with mathematical precision. Every archetype acts like a doorway into specific vibrational landscapes. Step through the archetype of the warrior, and life organizes into battles, victories, and quests. Step through the archetype of the lover, and life floods with connection, longing, and beauty. Step through the archetype of the sage, and wisdom, solitude, and illumination surround you.
Instant manifestation occurs the moment you cross the threshold. You need not build the landscape. It is already complete. You only needed to choose the door.
This is why rituals, symbols, and mythologies have always carried such creative potency. They are keys that unlock archetypal doors. But the true ritual is not external. It is the internal decision to embody the archetype now. When resistance feels immovable, one can bypass it by invoking an archetype. If your personal mind doubts abundance, you can align with the archetype of the harvest goddess or the golden king. You borrow their resonance, and your resistance collapses in the face of their overwhelming frequency. This is not fantasy. It is resonance technology. Archetypes carry coherent patterns that override personal static. By embodying an archetype, you stabilize in a frequency beyond personal limitation. And once stabilized, the manifestation becomes instant. At the center of all manifestation lies the 0 point, the still core from which all vibrations emerge. Resistance collapses when you touch this stillness. Because at the 0 point, there is no duality, no conflict, no time. Every meditation, every breath, every surrender is a return to the 0 point. From here, creation is effortless, because you are operating from the ground of being itself. The moment you arise from zero with a clear intention, the field organizes instantly, for there is no contradiction left to oppose it. Manifestation does not operate on a large scale differently than it does on a small scale. The same principle governs both. Deciding to raise your hand and having it lift instantly is the same mechanism as deciding to live in abundance and watching the world shift. The only difference is belief. You trust the micro-manifestation of hand movement so it occurs effortlessly. You doubt the macro-manifestation of life transformation, so resistance arises. Yet both are fractal reflections of the same law. Once you recognize this, the illusion of scale dissolves. The universe does not distinguish between small and large desires. To infinite intelligence they are the same. Thus, manifestation of any kind is equally instant once belief aligns. Every resistance is not an enemy, but a shadow. It is energy, asking to be integrated. When you resist resistance, you feed it. When you listen, it transforms. For example, the fear of failure is not meant to block you. It is meant to redirect you into mastery of courage. The moment you embrace the fear as part of your energy field, it ceases to oppose you. It integrates, and your manifestation proceeds instantly, now carrying the strength of what was once shadow. Thus, collapse of resistance is often less about fighting and more about embracing. Integration is speed. Certain archetypes specialize in dissolving resistance. The destroyer archetype clears stagnation. The trickster archetype dissolves rigidity through paradox. The healer archetype reconciles wounds. When you invoke these forces, they act as solvents, melting resistance so that manifestation flashes into being. This is why ancient cultures invoked gods and goddesses for specific manifestations. They were not begging external deities. They were channeling archetypal forces within the collective psyche. And once invoked, resistance dissolved, and manifestation became immediate. When you sense delay, do not ask why has it not come. Instead ask where is my energy scattering. Scan your body, emotions, thoughts. Find the contradiction, then decide unify or surrender. Either gather energy into coherence, or drop into 0 point. Both methods collapse resistance. Once collapsed, the manifestation has no barrier. The switch flips. The light floods. The outcome appears. Sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. But always instantly on the energetic plane and then swiftly in the perceptual one. Time is the grand stage set upon which consciousness plays, but it is not fundamental. It is a perceptual scaffolding designed to organize experience into digestible sequences. Without this scaffolding, the immensity of simultaneous possibilities would overwhelm the linear mind. Manifestation feels delayed only because the mind insists on narrating events through temporal structure. The shift already happened the moment the intention crystallized, but the storyline unfolds frame by frame, giving the illusion of progression. It is similar to watching a film. The ending already exists on the reel, yet you experience it frame by frame. You may believe the story is moving toward its conclusion, but in truth the entire movie is present from the start. Manifestation works identically. Your chosen outcome is already printed into the reel, waiting for your perspective to arrive at its frame. Reality is not one continuous space but an interwoven lattice of dimensions. Each dimension overlays the others, like transparent slides stacked atop one another. Your senses filter this vast lattice into a coherent picture, but in truth, infinite overlays exist simultaneously. When you shift state, you are not waiting for external events to change. You are sliding into a different overlay where those events are already active. It is a matter of alignment, not construction. Imagine walking through a museum with many exhibits layered behind glass walls. At one moment, your attention rests on the gallery of ancient maps. In another, you look at the wing of sculptures. The museum has not rearranged itself. You simply shifted gaze. So too with dimensional overlays. Manifestation is the turning of attention from one exhibit to another, each complete and timeless. Synchronicity occurs when two or more overlays bleed into awareness simultaneously. It is the signature of instantaneous manifestation becoming visible within linear time. For example, you think of a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly they call. The call did not result from random chance. It was the resonance of overlays colliding, the version of you intending contact, and the version of them intending connection already coexisted. Synchronicity was the seam where those realities overlapped into visibility. Such events remind us that manifestation is not future-based. It is an alignment already vibrating, now seeping into perception as a so-called coincidence. Linear time suggests sequence: past leads to present, present leads to future. But in higher dimensions, chronology collapses into simultaneity. All moments exist together in a vast field. When you set an intention, you are not creating a new future. You are collapsing into a timeline where that future already resides. The movement is instantaneous, though perception interprets it as unfolding. Think of tuning a radio. Countless stations broadcast at once. When you switch the dial, you are not generating a new broadcast. You are aligning with one that was already transmitting. Manifestation is the tuning of timelines, not their invention. The mind experiences time as a flow, yet memory and anticipation reveal its elastic nature. A single second of deep bliss can feel eternal, while hours of routine vanish unnoticed. This shows that time bends to consciousness rather than consciousness bending to time. When you enter the state of your desired manifestation, you compress time. What might seem years away collapses into immediacy, because you bypass the linear expectation of duration. The moment the state is fully embodied, memory rearranges itself, the past reshapes, and the so-called future appears to accelerate into the present. Each dimension carries its own laws. In physical dimension, objects appear solid and causal. In emotional dimension, resonance dictates flow. In mental dimension, thought forms structure, perception. In archetypal dimension, mythic energies govern patterns. Manifestation is instantaneous because it originates from dimensions above the physical. By the time it filters down into matter, it is already complete. The physical simply catches up, like the last echo of a sound long sung. When you shift at the higher levels, mental, emotional, archetypal, you are already manifesting. Waiting only appears necessary, because the physical layer is the slowest echo. But in truth, the echo was inevitable, the moment the chord was struck. Synchronicities are not random gifts. They are navigational signals. They mark intersections between your current overlay and the one you are shifting into. Each synchronicity whispers, yes, this direction alone. When manifestation feels distant, watch for these signals. They are breadcrumbs across dimensional overlays. Each one is a miniature instant manifestation, proof that alignment is already occurring. The more you notice them, the faster they multiply, until the destination overlay fully stabilizes. Many believe resistance requires years of therapy, or long spiritual battles, but resistance is bound to time illusion. The moment you recognize that time itself is a construct, resistance can vanish instantly. Why? Because resistance is sustained by the story. I am not there yet. I need more time to heal, grow, prepare. But if time is not real, that story dissolves. Healing, growth, preparation, all can collapse into a single instant of recognition. And in that instant, manifestation is no longer postponed. Each overlay corresponds to a parallel self already living your chosen reality. When you manifest, you do not become something new, you slide into the overlay of the self who already embodies it. That parallel self has already experienced the abundance, the love, the health. They are real now. Your shift of state is the handshake across dimensions. As soon as you match their vibration, the merge is instant. From that perspective, synchronicity is communication between selves. The signs are echoes leaking from parallel versions of you, guiding you toward their timeline. Consciousness paints reality like an artist layering brushstrokes. Time is the method of arranging strokes into order so the painting can be appreciated, step by step. Yet the finished canvas always exists beyond the brush. Manifestation is like stepping back to view the entire painting at once. From that vantage, you see that the completion was never in doubt. Every stroke, every so-called delay, every apparent obstacle was already woven into the masterpiece. The instant you shift perspective, you stand before the completed artwork, though the brush may still be moving. Synchronicities are chords played by multiple overlays striking resonance. Like harmonic overtones in music, they enrich the melody of manifestation. Each synchronicity is proof that dimensions are not isolated, but interwoven, resonating together in one grand symphony. When you attune to this music, life becomes rhythmic rather than chaotic. You stop forcing outcomes and begin dancing with the synchronicities as they arrive. And this dance is the art of instantaneous manifestation, expressed across time's illusion. To live as an instant manifester is to abandon identification with linear progression. It is to see time not as a road to travel, but as a landscape to select. You are not moving toward destiny. You are selecting which destiny overlay to stand within now. The world mirrors whichever overlay you inhabit, and synchronicities confirm your selection in real time, like constellations lighting up to show you where you are. Ultimately, all overlays converge into the eternal present. There is no past overlay or future overlay, there is only the now, refracted through infinite angles. Manifestation is instantaneous because the now contains all possible outcomes. Every synchronicity, every collapse of resistance, every overlay shift, is simply the unveiling of this truth. You already stand within infinity. Choosing consciously is not about waiting for creation to arrive. It is about realizing creation is already here. Identity is the most powerful instrument of instant manifestation because reality is always shaped by who you believe yourself to be. The moment identity shifts, the universe reorganizes itself to reflect the new self without hesitation. If one sees oneself as abundant, abundance is the lens through which everything must appear. If one embodies the lover, the world mirrors connection and intimacy. If one stands as the sage, life arranges itself into lessons of wisdom. Nothing external can resist the identity that consciousness inhabits, for identity is the command signal that programs the hologram of existence. Identity shifting is not gradual. It is not a long march of self-improvement. It is a pivot of recognition. A snake does not crawl slowly out of its old skin. It releases it at once. Likewise, when identity is dropped, a new one arises immediately. The gap exists only in memory, not in actuality. The old self dissolves like mist. the moment a decision is embodied. To cling to delay is to refuse to release the skin fully. But when the shedding is total, the new self is not a possibility, it is the only reality available. Quantum entanglement reveals that particles separated by vast distances still move as one. They do not communicate across space. They are aspects of a single system that has no separation. So too with you and your manifestation. The self who has already lived your desire is not distant in time or space. It is entangled with you now. The moment you acknowledge the entanglement, the shift is instant, because entangled states cannot contradict one another. When you embody the new identity, the entangled manifestation reflects itself without delay. The signal was always shared, only recognition was missing. This is why manifestation often feels uncanny, as though reality anticipated your choice before you made it. In truth, the choice was never isolated. The entangled outcome was already vibrating in synchrony with your becoming. When you finally claimed it, the universe did not need to deliver. It simply collapsed into the inevitable reflection of the entanglement already in place. What you call miracle is the ordinary language of quantum correspondence. Inevitability is the natural state of manifestation. Once identity aligns with intention, there is no alternative. The universe cannot produce contradiction. For contradiction is not sustainable within coherent systems. The manifestation is inevitable, not because of effort but because the moment identity and entanglement unify, no other possibility exists. The outcome is not coming. It is already inevitable. And inevitability is another name for instantaneous. The mechanics of inevitability resemble the law of gravity. When a stone is released, it falls. There is no question of whether it will drift upward instead. The gravitational field guarantees the outcome. Similarly, when identity is chosen with totality, the manifestation falls into being with the same certainty. Delay is an illusion created by perception, not by the field. The stone has already touched the ground. The linear mind simply insists on narrating the fall as if it takes time. This is why partial commitment delays manifestation. When you hesitate between identities, the field mirrors hesitation. 1 foot in the old self, 1 foot in the new. And reality seems unstable, fragmented, uncertain. But when the leap is absolute, when you burn the bridge to the old self, manifestation is instantaneous. There is no time needed for transition, because the old version evaporates the moment you cease to inhabit it. Entanglement also explains synchronicity at the level of inevitability. When you embody a new self, the entangled world reorganizes with such precision that signs, people, and circumstances collide flawlessly into place. These collisions are not random, they are inevitability expressing itself through the language of coincidence. Every meeting, every alignment, every open door is the reflection of entanglement asserting its coherence. Once inevitability is triggered, the entire field bends to sustain it. The paradox is that inevitability does not require belief in possibility. It requires belief in identity. If you continue to see yourself as the struggler, possibility remains hypothetical. If you see yourself as the one who already lives the reality, the hypothetical collapses into inevitability. You do not ask, will this happen? You stand as the one for whom it is already true. From that stance, the universe cannot answer with anything except the confirmation of your stance. Identity shifting, entanglement, inevitability. These are not 3 separate principles but one motion expressed in different languages. The identity is the decision. The entanglement is the mechanism. The inevitability is the guarantee. Together they reveal why manifestation is always instant. The new identity is chosen now. The entanglement synchronizes now. The inevitability crystallizes now. Nothing remains for tomorrow. The shift is complete in the only place it can ever occur, the eternal present.